Hi all, Fuzzy Barbarian back once again. So I've got a dual sword build in Nioh to share with you, and I'm going to try and race through this as quickly as possible. This is a Way of the Wise build, so by the time you're at Way of the Wise, I'll assume you already know a good chunk about Nioh builds. For that reason, I'm only going to focus on the key aspects of this build to make this video as short as possible. If you come away from this build with any questions that I haven't answered, by all means post away in the comments and I'll try to help you out. Okay, to begin with, this build is focused on multiple pieces from multiple sets. The first is the main weapon, which is the dual swords from the Master Swordsman set, and I don't have an ethereal version of this sword yet, but you don't need it. In fact, you don't need ethereal versions of nearly most of this gear apart from some of the armor pieces, but we'll get to that. On the dual swords, all the usual perks are on there. The one exception I'll point out is I have grapple damage and close combat attack enemy out of key. The reason I have those two there is dual swords are more difficult with human enemies than most other weapons, and for that reason those two perks work really well in synergy with each other. When human enemies are out of key, you can grapple them, get the extra enemy out of key damage at the same time, and the grapple gives you a ton of damage. The enemies fall down, human enemies fall down, and then you can sign of the cross them, usually killing enemies basically in a single grapple and sign of the cross. So that's why I've got those there, purely for human enemies. Now if you don't know about the Master Swordsman set, it gives you the extra skill key reduction, extra close combat damage, but most importantly the sign of the cross damage. Everyone knows about that, so I can move on. Normally in Way of the Wise at this point you might find that in addition to your normal armor sets that you see builds made with an extra 3-piece armor set, and usually that will be your secondary weapon and 2 ranged weapons, or it'll be a secondary weapon or 2 ranged weapons and an armor piece or something like that. I haven't done that with this build. I've chosen Gozateno's axe, which is a part of the Samurai from Darklands armor set. The reason for that is this axe gives you this armor set, gives you a 30% skill effect extended for rage, and you can also get, if you're lucky, you can get a starred skill effect extended rage. I don't have a starred effect here, but it didn't matter. 29.3% still pretty good. What that means, that skill effect means it extends the time in which you can be in rage, and rage itself is a buff that does more damage than any other buff like power pills or carnage. It does about, I think, 10% more damage than carnage. With the effect extended rage, it lasts about 10 seconds longer than Carnage as well. Also, in addition to that, it doesn't debuff your defenses like Carnage does, which it does debuff your ki per attack move, but with our other perks on this build, that becomes irrelevant. So basically this gives you more damage output and for longer each time. Plus, unlike Carnage or other talismans, like perhaps leeching for example even, you can use rage constantly. So as soon as it runs out, you can put it back on. As soon as it runs out, you can put it back on all the way through a map, and you'll never run out of it. If you put on, say, your Carnage talisman, use it 6 times, it's gone. So that's another good perk for this. The other reason why I choose this over a 3-set ethereal perk here, if I had an ethereal version of this axe, then you could conceivably use that and 3 other pieces, but I would still choose not to, and the reason why is in the ranged weapons area now you get the benefits of both, and if you have 2 different armor set ranged weapons on here, you'll get both of their damage reductions. In this case, I've got the Kagetsuchi armor set and I've got the Amaterasu armor set. Both of those give a 3% damage reduction. So does the Axe armor set, and so does the Master Swordsman armor set, and so does the General Kagetsu's armor set. So that's 15% damage reduction just by structuring your build like that right off the bat. And this, when we get to the armor set in a moment, this will show you this stacks on top of the armor set perks as well, making this a very tanky build. The weapon key point on the weapon here is I put equipment drop rate wherever I can, but the key point is equipment weight damage bonus. When you have weight of over 30.1, which we do with this build, 30.9 I've got, you may have higher, slightly higher, anything over 30.1 and you'll get more damage from equipment weight damage bonus than you will agility damage bonus, so that's why I don't have agility damage bonus on there. I do have damage towards Namahagi on there. Apparently that applies across the board. That's my most hated enemy. You can put damage towards your most hated enemy on there too if you want. In the secondary slot, nothing really matters there. Equipment drop rate I've got, and recurrent damage from fire. Those perks apply. So apart from that, you can put whatever else you want on there. You probably want to match your equipment weight damage perk on there as well. I haven't, but you probably will if you're going to switch weapons. I don't really switch weapons, so I haven't bothered. So that's the key there. Yeah, staple of this set is General of Kagetsu's armor. The bonuses of this are obviously the damage reduction, close combat damage as well, but the key is the 4th piece set bonus of damage status ailments A+, and a reduction in damage of 21.6% when you have a status ailment. Now, as I said, the axe up here, when you proc rage, that puts an instant status ailment on you, and when it does, you get those benefits. You get the benefits of the Kagetsu's armor set. You also get them if you use the Hermit Talisman, and you also get them if you use the Carnage Talisman. So multiple ways to do it, but once you proc rage, you know you've done it as well. And those damage, that damage increase is quite good, and that damage reduction is obviously phenomenal. And we'll be stacking that with a few others, which I'll go over in a moment. As far as perks on there are some key perks. I always go for elemental damage reduction everywhere I can. So I've been over that before in previous videos, and it's obvious why. But wherever you can roll it. Wherever you see it on my gear, you should try and do that as well. I have bonus for absorbing Amrita to increase attack, and I also try and reduce my firearms damage a little bit there. What you're seeing there, the toughness, 50% or increase, or more. When you have 50% or more ki left, you can take it or leave it. I don't know if that's of any benefit. I just haven't bothered re-rolling it. To be honest, this isn't even an optimized build yet, and it's still super good, so it can be optimized a little bit more, but yeah, roll whatever you want there. For the chest piece though, absolute key is you must roll that yellow perk there, which means your status ailment, when you suffer a status ailment, your damage is reduced. I've got 17.6%. I'm not sure what the highest tier is on there. It'll be higher than that. I haven't bothered trying to find out. I already feel like I get plenty as it is. But yeah, that there stacks with your armor set of damage reduction status 21.6%. That stacks with it, so that takes it up even higher. Extend evasion invulnerability is also a key there, because when you run in low stance and you hit the enemy, you are proccing some of the perks that we have on here, and then when you use in low stance your X button to evade, you extend the length of your invulnerability. So make sure you have that on there. and that's about it. Weight reduction wherever you can as well. On the gloves, Timely Guard for increasing attack, Timely Guard for reflecting projectiles. That deflecting projectiles perk is the same that's on the Yatta mirror that you see. You can't live without that once you really start getting a hang of deflecting projectiles in a timely manner. That's a fantastic perk. I highly recommend you have that. But a key here is the green one. Bonus after dash attack damage ×2. Now, what that means is when you run at an enemy and you hold your X down and you're in low stance and you hit them and you pull off a dash attack, you instantly get ×2 to your attack damage. That's going to pair with another perk I'll talk about in a moment, but yeah, that's an absolute key to this, because we're choosing a Guardian Spirit that isn't all about outputting damage. That kind of makes up for it. Okay, on our pants, nothing really special there. I do have damage when you're suffering an ailment. I mean, auto recovery when you're suffering an ailment. Now, I don't really know how that works. Actually, I think it's only when an enemy puts an ailment on you, not when you put an ailment on you. It seems to be at random when it procs, so I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's when an enemy puts an ailment on you, and that doesn't seem to happen to me very much anymore. So I haven't noticed this going off very much, but yeah, I've got it on there so that I do know when an enemy has put an ailment on me, pretty much. And the rest is pretty self-explanatory there. Pants, absolute key. The first green one, bonus after purification, nullify damage. Now what that means is, when you purify a yokai realm, there will be a period of a few seconds where you cannot take any damage at all. You are absolutely invulnerable. Now when you pair that with, you can see in my items down below, the Kekai Talisman. The Kekai Talisman will auto-purify for you. That means that when you go into a yokai pool with Kekai active, you are going to be invulnerable for the first few seconds that you're in it. Absolute essential perk for this build. That will make fighting yokai extremely easy, because you won't have to try to key pulse to purify yokai realms yourself. It will just happen for you. The second green perk there, nullify weakening, a foot protection, take it or leave it. I might re-roll that because I'm pretty much always invulnerable anyway. I just haven't bothered, pretty much. So they're the key points of the armor sets there. Before I get into the accessories, I'll just talk about how those dashing attacks and the purification pair up with the Guardian Spirit, our Guardian Spirit of choice, which is Enku. Enku gives you a nullified damage to dash attacks, and now that's the one where you dash in and you're invulnerable. Now what the nullified damage to dash attacks, why I've chosen Enku for that particular perk, you can get that perk on ethereal weapons. In other words, if I had an ethereal set of these Futatsu swords, I could put that perk on the weapon, and then I could use a different Guardian Spirit that dishes out more damage than Enku. However, some enemies can debuff all the perks you have on your weapon, meaning if you rely on that invulnerability, as a lot of the Kagetsu armor set builds do, because a lot of them are kind of glass cannons in that respect, that means that you can be 1 and 2 shot killed at times if you don't have your weapon perks working. If you use the Enku Guardian Spirit, that cannot happen to you at no point. And I think this build already dishes out plenty of damage. It's not the most OP DPS build in the game, but it dishes out a ton of damage. You saw at the start, they're all top level Way of the Wise bosses, and you're killing them. You can kill them in seconds. So I really see no reason to worry about more damage output than what I'm already doing. However, since you can still be hurt with this build if you haven't made yourself invulnerable, if you haven't got an ailment on you, then nullifying damage. I mean, if you're running around, you're fighting a mob, and there's too many enemies to face, and your weapon's been debuffed, and you don't have time, or you're out of carnage, or you can't put an ailment on, which never really happens, but I'm just trying to theoretically say, if you've got Enku on, you can constantly run and nullify your damage. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. Also, Enku is pretty good as well. Don't take it as all being about nullified damage. Enku also has close combat attack of 16%, which is when the enemy is attacking, which most of the time when you're fighting with this build, the enemy is always attacking you, and here's why. One of the items that we use here is the Hermit Talisman. The Hermit Talisman makes it so that you won't flinch when attacking an enemy. So when you run up dash up to an enemy and hit them for your nullified damage and your dash attack damage, and you've got Hermit running, it means you can stand there, deal double damage, not take any damage, and not flinch, so that every attempt to damage the enemy that you do works. And for that reason, you can kill enemies super fast. You can kill Revenants super fast, human enemies super fast, and Yokai super fast with that combination. I've already mentioned you may never use Carnage, but I have that on there. I also have no buffs to put on enemies whatsoever, apart from weakness. Don't put weakness on every enemy. Some enemies don't. It actually makes them more powerful, like the White Tiger and whatnot, but I use weakness on the enemies that it doesn't. And the other perks I have are Catwalking Scroll, Supper Scroll, and Tiger Running Scroll, purely so that I can run through levels fast to get to bosses, or run through levels without battling to open chests and stuff. And that's about it. As far as accessories go, I always go for Yokai Close Combat Damage as my priority. You can also go for damage reduction as a priority. My first priority though is always elemental damage reduction. They seem to be pretty rare in drops though. These are actual drops I got in Way of the Demon. I haven't had any drops like that in Way of the Wise, so I'm using these Way of the Demon accessories, even though their defensive multipliers are significantly lower than what I could be getting if I was using ethereal gear. Just to show you something, what am I doing? Just to show you the ethereal gear you could get. You could take something like that. There's no elemental damage, but you could have Yokai Close Combat Damage and high Yokai Damage Reduction and Defense from Behind. Oh, and by the way, you don't always need a Yasukani Magatama to get the -1 set bonus perk. That now can drop on anything. I'll see if I've got one here. Yeah, there you go. That's a Magatama. Set bonus requirements down 1. So there you go. You don't need a Yasukani Magatama anymore. You just need an accessory with that perk on it. So check every accessory you get, just in case you get one of those. As far as skills go, I won't go through all those now, apart from to say choose every single passive in every weapon tree that you can, except for the Adachi and Axe passives. Don't choose any Tonfa passives. With the Axe, make sure you get Rage, and with Dual Swords, pick all the moves that you like to do. I have nearly all of them because I like playing around with all of them. Ninjutsu wise, make sure you can cast fast on yourself. I also max out damage, defense against different types of damages, especially paralysis. Get yourself paralytic ground fire traps, max that out. They're great for farming, say, Marabashi bosses and stuff. I don't really use them much, but they're great to have when you want to use them. Most of the perks here that I've got are all pretty self-explanatory from the items, but pretty much just pause the video on any to see what I haven't mentioned. Same with Onmyo magic, just your weakness and your... I've got Sloth there for farming mainly, but it makes farming a bit quicker, but I don't really use it much. Also, elemental damage reduction I have maxed out, and I also have Yoko Realm, Pure Heaven, and obviously Kekai maxed out. Increased health from elixirs, reduced damage from yokai, max out your Carnage Talismans, max out your amount of Amrita you get and your luck for more gear drops, or better gear drops I should say, max out Hermit Talismans, and max out your Omnio Mastery, and that's about it. You can pretty much choose whatever you want there, as long as you're always running Hermit, Kekai, and weakness really. And as far as the Guardian Spirits, I've already been over that, except for Secondary Spirit, which is Ayakomori. With Ayakomori, you get attack from behind. It speaks for itself. Clan-wise, I've gone with Yamanaka. I did experiment with a number of clans, which is why you can see in the blue in the brackets there is pretty low. I only switched back to this again about 2 days ago, or a day ago a bit. The reason this is the best clan, I think, is it also adds to your damage status ailments and damage reduction when you have a status ailment. I don't really think you need to go in clans that boost your damage, or you know, like Honda halves your health, has a chance of halving the first damage against you, or you know, Toto for extra life. I really don't think you need the extra life with this build. I think this extra damage reduction changes the whole ball game, to be honest, and it'll be even higher than that as I level up this clan. I don't know how high it can go, someone probably does, but it will certainly go a lot higher than that. So Yamanaka is the clan to go with, and you can also see down on the bottom right there, versus fire, versus water, versus wind. I've made sure I've maxed those out in the skill trees because that's always handy for reducing damage. As far as my level goes, I'm level 451. You don't need to be that level for this build. Obviously, the perks are what matter. You could be level 1 and you can trigger the dash attack and the invulnerability perks. So obviously level 1 in Way of the Wise isn't going to work, but you know, that's the point I'm making. You can be a lot lower level than this. Just make sure that if you are lower level, that you put 28 into magic to max out the amount of magic you can carry. 33 into spirit to make sure you can use Enku to get that nullified damage perk, and enough into stamina to make sure that you're at B agility, and the rest you can add up, increase as you increase your level. Also, don't forget, some of the damage I do comes from the prestige points. You want to max out your prestige points by getting your titles as much as you can. Those are mine. I won't focus on them. You can pause and look at them and see what they are at another time at your leisure. Finally, the one thing I'll talk about is your gear, how to get it. All of this gear, well, basically you can get the smithing text for the axe from the Samurai of Sayawana. You can get the smithing text for this from the dual sword guy, so you can do the Grimace Blades mission, I think, or you can do Marabashi, and you'll get it there. You can they will also drop the ethereal versions of these, and maybe you'll be lucky. Now, the interesting thing is all this other gear I got entirely from one particular run. It is the run on the Scion of Virtue, where I pop a catwalking scroll, a supper scroll, and a tiger running scroll, and run all the way through the map, opening every chest and picking up every item for a drop before I get to just before the boss, where there's that red tent. The guy in that red tent, that is the general of Kigetsu. He's the guy that drops the smithing text for the divine gear as well as the ethereal pieces. Basically run to the end, stop at the shrine just before him, kill him. If he drops an ethereal piece, finish the map, or if he doesn't drop an ethereal piece, then don't go back to the shrine, close out, and then open up the game again. You'll continue back where you started at the shrine, go and kill him again. If he drops an ethereal piece, pick it up, and so on and so on and so on. So that's how you got it. You'll find it's very easy to farm this set. I actually got these two Master Swordsman pieces and these two ranged weapons doing that farming run and opening the chests next to him. So you can, if you're lucky, spend a few hours and get all of this stuff from that single run, or you can just go and farm the general and get that stuff and then get your Master Swordsman and other gear from other ways. But that's the way I did it, and it didn't take me long. It only took me, I think it was about an hour and a half to get a complete set of Ethereal General of Kagetsu's armor, and took me about another about 2 hours to get the Master Swordsman pieces and the ranged weapons. So it's actually a pretty good run. Things drop pretty fast there, it seemed, but it is still RNG, so good luck with that. Okay, I've rushed through this as fast as I can. Video's still way longer than I wanted it to be. I'll just scroll through my special effects so you can see those while I'm closing out and saying goodbye. Any ideas on how to improve this build, or any ideas on what you've done with your own similar build, post away in the comments. Would love to hear about it. And yeah, that's about it. Hope this helps you out, guys, and if you want me to make a video on that Kigetsu run, just shout out and I'd be happy to do that. Alright guys, that's all I need to go over, I think, so bye for now.